Welcome, YouTubers, to another episode in my Grammar Hero series. In today's video, I'm going to be working out some practice questions that are going to closely mirror what you'll see on the Mathematics Knowledge Subtest of the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, that is the ASVAB. As a reminder, you're not allowed to use a calculator or a reference sheet on the ASVAB, so as you work on these practice questions, try not to use any of those resources. At the same time, I also want to mention that in order to get the most out of today's video, I strongly encourage you to work out all these problems on your own. That is, after I read a question, you should pause the video, attempt to work it out on your own scratch paper, and then resume playing the video to check your solution. In the description of this video, I'm going to include timestamps that correspond with each question. Next to the timestamp, there's going to be the topic that the question's testing, as well as a link to a video where you can learn more about that topic. So if at any point during this video you get stuck, just bear in mind that in the description of this video, you can find some additional resources to help you out. So all those things being said, let's go ahead and get started with today's video. All right, so question 1 says, what is the value of negative 3.85 plus 0.004 plus 0.117? That is, we want to find out what the sum of these decimals is. At first glance, this looks like a pretty easy question. That said, if you haven't done arithmetic by hand in a long time, you could get tripped up on this one. So to start, I'm going to keep things simple, and I'm just going to do 0.004 plus 0.117, and after that, we'll deal with this negative 3.85. So the key to adding decimals is simply to line up their decimals. So this is 0.004 plus 0.117. Prior to doing any math here, I'm just going to drop down the decimal in place. This is 4 plus 7, which is 11, so we're going to drop down a 1 and carry a 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, and then 0 plus 1 is simply 1. So we can see that this problem becomes negative 3.85 plus 0.121. And this is what would trip up a lot of people. They don't know how to do addition with this big negative. But this is how you do it. You take this negative number and you take away the negative sign for a moment. So you write it as 3.85. You're going to subtract the smaller number from it, notably 0.121. And then you're going to realize that in reality, since we're taking away this big number from this small number, this result has to be negative. And this is how you do this work by hand. Of course, as you can see, our decimals are lined up. And as needed, we can fill in zeros in the blank spaces. Okay, so let's work this out now. This is 0 minus 1, which we can't do. We're going to have to borrow. This is going to become 4, and this is going to become 10. 10 minus 1 is 9. 4 minus 2 is 2. 8 minus 1 is 7. Drop down your decimal in place. And then 3 minus nothing is 3. So we can see that negative 3.85 plus 121 is negative 3.729, which is C. Again, at first glance, this question looks fairly simple and straightforward. But if you haven't done this arithmetic in a long time, you could get tripped up as to how to do it. Again, I explained those steps right here. All right, number 2 says, what is the mean, median, mode, and range of the following numbers? 15, 20, 50, 50, 65, and 100. More often than not, these numbers are going to be scrambled up on the ASVAB. They're not going to be in order like this. So the very first thing you want to do when you're asked to find the mean, median, mode, and range is to write these numbers from least to greatest. So let's go ahead and do that. It's going to be 15, 20, 50, 50, 65, and 100. And I'm just going to do these things in order since that's the order in which the answers are presented. That is, I'm going to find the mean first. And if we take a look right here, we can see that all these means in the answer choices are different. So once I figure out what the mean is, I'm going to know what the correct answer is. So let's go ahead and do that. That's mean. To find the mean, you simply sum all the numbers and divide by how many numbers there are. So that looks like this. Again, we're summing all the numbers, 15 plus 20 plus 50 plus 50 plus 65 plus 100. And again, we're going to divide that by how many numbers there are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you want, you can regard this as a data set by using these brackets, although that's not that important for the ASVAB. Okay, so now we have to sum all these numbers and then divide them by 6. Whenever I have to sum a large amount of numbers, I do it vertically like this. I do 100 plus 65 plus 50. And by doing this vertically, you reduce your likelihood of making a simple mistake. Okay. All right, so in this right-hand row, we have 5 plus 5, which is 10. So we're going to drop down a 0 and carry a 1. Now we have 5 plus 5, which is 10, plus 6, which is 16, plus 1 is 17, 18, 19, 20. So drop down a 0, carrier 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. So we can see this becomes 300 over 6. Again, you could regard fractions as long division. Instead of reading this as 300 over 6, we could read it as 300 divided by 6. And this turns out is pretty easy to do. 6 goes into 30 5 times without going over, and therefore 6 goes into 350 times without going over. 6 times 50 is 300, so we can see there's no remainder. In other words, 300 divided by 6 is 50. Therefore, we know the mean in this case is going to be 50. If we look at our answer choices, only one starts with 50, so we know the correct answer is D. Now, on the ASVAB, you may encounter questions where by solving one part of the problem, you can get to correct answer. But just to illustrate how to find median, mode, and range, I'm going to go ahead and work those out as well. But if I were taking the ASVAB, I'd be done at this point. Okay, so the median is the middle number of your data set. And let me go ahead and write that down here. The median is the middle number of your data set, and you can find that by crossing off numbers at each end of your data set until you get to the middle number. So let's go ahead and do that. Cross off one on this side, one on this side, one here, and one here. Now, in some cases, you're going to have two numbers as your median. So what that's going to prompt you to do is to add them together and divide by 2. So in this case, our median is going to be 50 plus 50 over 2. 50 plus 50, of course, is 100. 100 divided by 2 is 50. So we can see our median in this case is 50. Let's go ahead and find the mode. The mode is the number that appears the most often in your data set. And if we take a look at our data set here, we can see that whereas all the other numbers only appear once, 50 appears twice. So 50 is the mode in this data set. And then finally, we have to find the range. And the range is simply the largest number in your data set minus the smallest number in your data set. And this is helpful. It's helpful if you arrange your numbers from smallest to greatest, because you know this is your greatest number and this is your smallest number. So again, range the smallest, biggest minus smallest. So this is 100 minus 15, which is 85. And if we double check, we can see that all these other answer choices are correct as well. Okay. And again, you're going to have to know how to find the mean, median, mode, and range for the ASVAB. It's a pretty simple and straightforward process, so make sure you know how to do those things. Again, in the description of this video, you can find a link to a video where I discuss all those at greater length. Number 3 says, what number in the list has the greatest value? 8/3, 2.28, 10 over 12, and 0.199. So we want to compare these numbers and find the greatest number. So I'm just going to write these off to the side like this. 8/3, 2.28, 10 over 12, and 0.199. Right away, we should think that 2.28 is the biggest number because clearly that's bigger than 0.199. Similarly, we should realize that 10 over 12 is less than 1. Again, if this fraction was 1, it would be 12 over 12. And since it's 10 over 12, we know it's less than 1. So that leaves us with 8/3 and 2.28. In order to make this comparison of these numbers, I'm going to have to convert one of them to the other. In this case, I think it's going to be easier to convert 8/3 to a decimal. And we can do that by doing long division, notably 8 divided by 3. And by working this out, we'll have converted this fraction to a decimal, which will make this comparison a little more straightforward. 3 goes into 8 2 times without going over. 3 times 2 is 6. 8 minus 6 is 2. 3 doesn't go into 2, so we have to add a 0 here. And in doing so, we're going to have to bring up a decimal here. 3 goes into 20 6 times without going over. 3 times 6 is 18. 20 minus 18 is 2. Bring down a free 0. 3 goes into 20 6 times without going over. 3 times 6 is 18. 18 minus 20 is 2. Bring down a free 0. So we can see that this is 2.66 repeated, and clearly 2.66 is greater than 2.28. So in this case, the answer is going to be 8/3, or A. All right, number 4 says, write 0.00125 in scientific notation. So to start, I'm going to write this number off to the side, 0.00125. Again, all numbers written in scientific notation start with a number between 1 and 10. So let's take a look. This is a number between 1 and 10. This is greater than 10, so we know this isn't an answer choice. And this 125 is greater than a number between 1 and 10, so we know this isn't a correct answer choice. The key to writing a number in scientific notation is this. We're going to shift this decimal however many times it takes to make this number a number between 1 and 10. So that's 1, 2, 3. As we can see, that's 1.25. We're going to multiply that by 10, and we're going to raise that to the power it took to move this decimal. Again, that was 1, 2, 3. And since this is a small number, it's going to be raised to the negative power. Again, negative powers correspond with small numbers, whereas positive powers correspond with large numbers. 0.00125 is a small number. So this is this written in terms of scientific notation, which as we can see is D. All right, number 5 says, solve the following system of equations. We have 2x plus y equals 9 and 3x minus y equals 18. To solve system of equations, what you want to do is either use the elimination or substitution method. The elimination method says multiply one of the equations by a constant, add it to the other equation in an effort to eliminate one of the variables. In this case, it should be obvious that if we add this first equation to this second equation, the variable of y will drop out. So let's go ahead and do that. It's going to be 2x plus y equals 9. And And as I said, we're just going to add that to the second equation. That's 3x minus y equals 16. 2x plus 3x is 5x. Y minus y is nothing, so that variable is eliminated. And then 9 plus 16 is going to be 25. Divide both sides by 5 to get x by itself. This crosses out, leaving you with x equals 25 over 5, which is just 5. Okay, so that is our x variable. In order to find our y variable, we're going to take this x variable and plug it back into either of the original two equations. And I'm going to plug it into this top equation since that looks like it's going to be the easiest amount of work to do. So that's going to be 2x plus y equals 9. Again, as I said, we're going to plug in 5 for x since we know what x is. So again, I'm going to plug that in right there. This becomes 2 times 5 plus y equals 9. This is 10 plus y equals 9. Subtract 10 from both sides. This crosses out, leaving you with y equals 9 minus 10 are negative 1. Solutions to systems of equations are written as ordered pairs. So this as an ordered pair would be 5, negative 1, which we can see is C. All right, number 6 says factor x squared plus 4x minus 32. So this is x squared plus 4x minus 32. Again, this is a quadratic equation that has a leading coefficient of 1. So in light of that, we know it's going to look like this in factored form. It's going to be x times x. That said, we want to find two factors that multiply to negative 32, but add to positive 4. That's going to be plus 8 and minus 4, given that 8 times negative 4 is negative 32, and 8 minus 4 is positive 4. And if we take a look at our answer choices, we can see that the correct one is in fact C. Okay, so if you need help with factoring, I do have 3 videos on my channel in which I discuss all the different factoring techniques you need to be familiar with. In addition, there's going to be a link in the description of this video, so check that out if you need more help with factoring. All right, number 7 says write the equation of the line given that one point on the line is 1/6 and the other point on the line is 3/2. So in order to write the equation of this line, we're going to need two things. We're going to need to know what the slope of the line is, and then we're going to have to use the slope to write the equation of the line. Again, slope is given by this. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then in this case, we're going to use the point slope equation to write this equation of the line, and that's given by this. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. X1, x2, y1, and y2 are simply ordered pairs. So this is x1, y1, and then this one is x2, y2. And by plugging these values into these equations, we can figure out what ultimately the equation of this line is. But as I mentioned, we're going to start by finding the slope of this line, which we need in order to write the equation of the line. So again, this is y2 minus y1. y2 is right here. It's 2 minus y1, which is 6. And then we have x2, which is 3, minus x1, which is 1. 2 minus 6 is negative 4. And then 3 minus 1 is 2. This becomes negative 4 over 2, which is just negative 2. Okay, and if we take a look at the equations of the lines given, we can see that only one of them has a slope of negative 2. So chances are this is going to be the correct answer, and we're not going to have to do too much work other than to write this equation using the point slope form to figure that out. So again, we know what m is, we know what y1 is, and we know what x1 is. So let's go ahead and plug all those things in. This is y minus y1 I identified as 6. M is -2 as we figured out, minus x minus x1, which is just 1. Let's go ahead and work this out. This is y minus 6 equals, again, we have to take this -2 and distribute it to the x as well as the -1. -2 times x is -2x. -2 times -1 is +2, given that a negative times a negative is a positive. Again, we want to write this equation in slope-intercept form, which means we want to write it as y equal to something. So to get y by itself, we're going to add 6 to both sides. This crosses out, leaving you with y equals -2x plus 2 plus 6, which is 8. So as we can see, the equation of this line is y equals -2x plus 8. Again, I have a video in which I do several examples of writing equations of lines. In this case, we were given 2 points on the line, so we had to find the slope, and then we had to take the slope and plug it into the point slope equation, which helped us write this equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, so that's that one. All right, number 8 says, find the area of the circle that has a radius of 20 centimeters. I'm going to make a little sketch since I think that's going to help us understand what's going on here. Again, we have a circle that has a radius of 20 centimeters. Radius is the center point of the circle to the edge of the circle. So in this case, we know our radius is 20 centimeters, and we could denote that with an r as well. The area of a circle is given by this equation. Area equals pi r squared. And since we're doing all this work by hand, we're going to let pi simply be approximated by 3.14. Let's go ahead and plug these things in and solve for area. Again, this is area equals pi times radius squared. Again, radius is 20, so this is 20 squared. Area equals pi. 20 squared is the same as 2 times 2, albeit with 20. 2 times 2 is 4. Therefore, 20 times 20 is going to be 400. So we can see that the area for this circle can be found by pi times 400. Let's go ahead and plug in 3.14 in place of pi. So this becomes 400 times 3.14. And as you can see, we now have to do multiplication involving a whole number and a decimal, notably 400 times 3.14. I'm going to do this work off to the side so as not to make any mistakes. So that looks like this. 400 times 3.14. In order to proceed, we have to shift this decimal and 3.14 2 times to the right to make 3.14 a whole number as well. So I'm going to shift it 1. 2 times to the right. So this becomes 400 times 314, albeit with 2 decimals to shift back into the left when we're done. Let's go ahead and work this out. 0 times 4 is 0. 0 times 4 is 0. 4 times 4 is 16. Before we start multiplication with this 1, we have to bring down a 0 placeholder. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 0 is 0. 4 times 1 is 4. And before we start multiplication with this 3, we have to bring down 2 0 placeholders. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 0 is 0. And then 3 times 4 is 12. Let's add all this up. This is 0 plus 0 plus 0, which is 0. 0 plus 0 plus 0, which is 0. 6 plus 0 plus 0, which is 6. 1 plus 4 is 5. 2 plus nothing is 2, and 1 plus nothing is 1. Bring in our 2 zeros, 1, 2. So we can see that the area in this case is given by 1256 centimeters squared, which is C. Okay, so for the ASVAB, you're going to have to know how to find the area as well as the circumference of circles. So those are two formulas that you absolutely have to memorize. All right, number 9 says simplify. We have x squared minus 3x plus 2, and then x squared plus 5x minus 6. I'm going to go ahead and write this equation off to the side. That's x squared minus 3x plus 2 over x squared plus 5x minus 6. This is what's called an algebraic fraction. It's a fraction with algebraic expressions in it. And in case it's not obvious, we can simplify this algebraic fraction by factoring the numerator, that is x squared minus 3x plus 2, as well as the denominator, that is x squared plus 5x minus 6, and crossing off like terms. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, we're trying to factor these two equations, so we know they're going to look like this in the numerator as well as the denominator, since these are quadratic equations with a leading coefficient of 1. All right, so for this equation in the numerator, we're looking for two factors that multiply to positive 2 but add to negative 3. That's going to be negative 2 and negative 1. Again, negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2, whereas negative 2 plus negative 1 is negative 3. And for this equation in the denominator, we're looking for two factors that multiply to negative 6 but add to positive 5. So that's going to be plus 6 and minus 1. Again, 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. 6 minus 1 is positive 5. And as I said, now we can cross off like terms like this. We have x minus 1 in the numerator as well as the denominator. And this leaves us with x minus 2 over x plus 6, which is C. All right, number 10 says solve 3 times 5 squared divided by 15 minus 5 minus 2 squared. Whenever you have problems in which there's a lot of operations going on at once, you have to use the order of operations to figure out which one to deal with first. The order of operations, I remember using the mnemonic device, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And what this says is you work out what's in parentheses first, exponents next, multiplication and division as they appear from left to right, and addition and subtraction as they appear from left to right. So to start, I'm simply going to copy this equation down, or this expression down. This is 3 times 5 squared divided by 15 minus 5 minus 2 squared. And as we can see, we have two sets of parentheses. So according to the order of operations, we have to work out what's in parentheses first. In this first set of parentheses, we can see that we have multiplication, exponent, and division. Of course, we work out exponents before multiplication and division. So let's go ahead and do that for each of these parentheses. This becomes 3 times, again, 5 squared is 25, divided by 15 minus 5. 2 squared is 4, so this is 5 minus 4. So we just took care of those exponents in both sets of parentheses. And as we can see, in this set of parentheses, we have multiplication and division, whereas in this set of parentheses, we have subtraction. We're still working out inside parentheses, so we're going to do multiplication and division as they appear from left to right over here, and there's only subtraction to work out over here. And again, we do multiplication and division as they appear from left to right. So let's go ahead and do that. Multiplication comes first, so we're going to do 3 times 25, which is 75. Again, this is divided by 15 minus 5 minus 4. And let's go ahead and work out these final operations. 75 divided by 15 is going to be 5. And then this is minus 5 minus 4, which is 1. 5 minus 1 is simply 4. So the answer to this one is going to be 4. Okay? Number 11 says, what is the surface area of a rectangular prism with a length of 5, a width of 2, and a height of 6 inches? Again, in case you need it, we can draw a little diagram of a rectangular prism. Looks like this. It's basically a box. And if you want, we can go ahead and label things. And let me fix that line real quick. We have a length of 5, a width of 2, and width is right here, and a height of 6. To find the surface area of a rectangular prism, you simply find the area of each of its faces and multiply it by 2, and that's given by this formula. Surface area equals 2 length times width plus 2 length times height plus 2 width times height. Again, this is area of its 3 faces, and since a rectangular prism has 6 faces, 2 of which mirror each other, this is how you find the surface area of all the faces. And now it's just a matter of plugging things in. Again, we have our length here, our width here, and our height here. So let's just plug those in and work this out. This is 2 length times width. That's going to be 5 times 2 plus 2. Length times height, that's 5 times 6 plus 2. Width times height, that's 2 times 6. So let's keep working this out. This is 2 times 5 times 2, which is 10, plus 2, 5 times 6, which is 30, plus 2, 2 times 6, which is 12. Let's keep working this out. 2 times 10 is 20. 2 times 30 is 60. And then 2 times 12 is 24. Let's keep working this out. 60 plus 20 is 80. Plus 24 is going to be 104. And again, this is in inches, so it's going to be inches squared. As we can see, that is going to be B. Again, in my video in which I discuss surface area and volume, I do mention that you either have to know how to derive this formula by looking at a prism, or you just have to memorize it. And as you can see, it's pretty easy to use otherwise. So that's this one. All right, number 12 says, find the cube root of 9x to the 6th over 27. I'm going to rewrite this off to the side since I know it's going to take a few steps to figure this one out. So this looks like this. The cube root of 9x to the 6th over 27. If you know your laws of radicals, you can break this apart like this. This is equivalent to, I don't know why my pen's acting up all of a sudden. This is equivalent to the cube root of 9x to the 6th over the cube root of 27. Cube root of 27, we should know right away, is 3, given that 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, which just leaves us with this numerator to focus on. One way to deal with radicals is to rewrite them as exponents. So I'm going to rewrite this numerator as 9x to the 6th, and I'm going to raise it, instead of finding the cube root of it, I'm going to raise it to the 1/3 power, which is the same thing. And now we can use the laws of exponents to simplify this. In particular, we can use the power rule. And the power rule, in case you haven't seen it in a while, is this. If you have something a to the m raised to the n power, that's the same as a to the m times n. And that's what we have here. In case it's not obvious, this 9's raised to the first power. So this becomes 9. 1 times 1/3 is just 1/3. And 6 times 1/3 is the same as 2. So this becomes x squared all over 3. And there's nothing we can do with 9 to the 1/3, so we're going to rewrite that as a radical. Again, that is the same as 9 cubed times x squared all over 3. And as we can see, this is a. Okay, so I do have 2 videos in which I talk about how to deal with exponents as well as radicals. They're both about an hour long, and I do recommend you watch those videos if you do not know how to go from a radical to an exponent and then apply the laws of exponents to simplify equations and then convert back to radicals. That's going to be part of the ASVAB that you're going to have to know. Okay, number 13 says, what is the next step in the following sequence? Or what is the next term in the following sequence? We have -9, 101, -999, 1001, and -9999. So right away, we should recognize that this goes negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. So we know our next term in this sequence is going to be positive. So all these negative ones we're going to go ahead and cross out. And by that same token, we can see we go from -9 to 1, -9 to 1, -9 to 1. So we know the next term in this sequence is going to start with 1. And if we look at the numbers that start with 1, we can see that there's 1 0 here, 3 zeros here, and that's going up by an odd number. So I know there's going to be 5 zeros in this number. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sandwiched by another 1, just like these are. So the next term in this sequence is 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, which is B. I do have a video in which I talk about how to solve sequences. Unfortunately, these just take practice to get good at. So that was that one. All right, for number 14, it says the movie Titanic is 180 minutes long. How many days long is the movie? So for this one, we're going to have to express minutes in terms of days. That said, it's helpful to realize that we can make these conversions. We can go from minutes to hours, and then we can express hours in terms of days. Again, there are 60 minutes in every hour. So in order to write minutes, 180 minutes in terms of hours, we're going to take 180 and divide it by 60. Before we do this math, we can cross out these corresponding zeros, which leaves us with 18 over 6. 18 divided by 6 is 3. So in other words, 180 minutes is the same as 3 hours. Now, we should realize that there are 24 hours in a day. So to express 3 hours as a fraction of a day, we're just going to take 3 and place it over 24. Unfortunately, all of our answer choices are written in decimal form. So in order to figure this one out, we're going to take 3 and divide it by 24. Again, all fractions can be regarded as long division. So we can read this as 3 divided by 24. Now we're asking ourselves, how many times does 24 go into 3? It doesn't. We have to add a 0 there. And when we add that 0, we now have to bring up a decimal. Now the question is, how many times does 24 go into 30? That's 1 time. 1 times 24 is 24. 30 minus 24 is 6. And we can bring down a free 0. Now the question is, how many times does 24 go into 60 without going over? 24 is about 30. So at most, 24 is going to go into 60 2 times without going over. 24 times 2 is 48. 60 minus 48 is going to be 12. And we can bring down a free 0. 24 goes into 125 times without going over. 24 times 5 is 120. So we can see there's no remainder. In other words, 3 over 24 is the same as 0.125, which we know corresponds to days. So the movie Titanic, in other words, is 0.125 days long. Okay? All right, number 15 says solve the inequality. 5d minus 4 plus 2d greater than or equal to 87. So to start, I'm going to write this off to the side. Again, this is 5d minus 4 plus 2d greater than or equal to 87. Inequalities are just like algebraic expressions in that you want to get the variable by itself. In this case, we want to get d by itself. That said, the difference between inequalities and algebraic expressions is this. If you multiply or divide by a negative across this inequality sign, it flips the direction of the inequality sign. So as we work this out, we want to be mindful of that. To start, I'm going to combine these like terms, notably 5d and 2d. 5d plus 2d is 7d, so this is 7d minus 4 is greater than or equal to 87. Again, our goal is to get d by itself. So as my next step, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. This is going to cross out here, leaving me just 7d over here. And it's not equal. It's greater than or equal to. 87 plus 4 is going to be 91. So this is 7d is greater than or equal to 91. Let's go ahead and divide both sides by 7 to get d by itself. This becomes d greater than or equal to 91 over 7. Honestly, I don't know if 91 is a factor of 7, so we can work this off to the side using long division. Again, we can regard this as 91 divided by 7. 7 goes into 9 one time without going over. 7 times 1 is 7, so this is 9 minus 7, which is 2. Drop down this 1. 7 goes into 21 3 times without going over. 7 times 3 is 21 with no remainder. So 91 over 7, as we just saw, is 13. So the answer to this one is D is greater than or equal to 13, which is A. Okay, so that was that one. And again, we didn't multiply or divide across the inequality by a negative, so we didn't have to change the direction of this inequality sign. All right, number 16 says, two angles are supplementary. If one angle is 36 degrees less than twice of the other angle, find the two angles. So first we have to realize that supplementary angles add to 180 degrees. In other words, angle 1 plus angle 2 must add up to 180 degrees. And now we can use this other bit of information to write an algebraic expression to represent this. Again, I'm going to let angle 1 refer to, I'm going to let x refer to angle 1. And we're told here that one angle is 36 less than twice of the other angle. So if one angle is x, the other angle is 2x minus 36. Again, that's 36 degrees less than twice the other angle. And of course, since they're supplementary, we know they add up to 180 degrees. I'm going to drop off the degree sign as I work out this math here. Let's combine like terms of x and 2x. X and 2x is 3x. Of course, this is minus 36 equals 180. To get x by itself, we're going to add 36 as our next step. This is going to cross out, leaving us with 3x equals 180 plus 36 is pretty easy to do mentally. We have 0 plus 6, which is 6. 8 plus 3, which is 11, and then 1 plus 1, which is 2. So we have 3x equals 216. Now let's divide both sides by 3 to get x by itself finally. This crosses out, leaving you with just x over here. And this, it turns out, is pretty easy to do mentally as well. We have 21 divided by 3, which is 7, and then 6 divided by 3, which is 2. Again, to start this problem, I let x refer to angle 1, and 2x minus 36 refer to angle 2. So let's go ahead and express what these angles are. Again, angle 1 is equal to x, and as we just saw, x is equal to 72. So we know the measure of angle 1 is 72 degrees. Similarly, we know angle 2 can be found using the expression 2x minus 36. Again, we know what x is. X is 72, so let's plug in 72 in place of x in this expression. This is 2 times 72 minus 36. And by working this out, we'll figure out what the measure of angle 2 is. Again, I'm going to do that off to the side. That's 2 times 72 minus 36. We should be able to do this in our head. 2 times 2 is 4. 7 times 2 is 14. So this is 144 minus 36. And so as not to make any mistakes, I'm going to actually work this off to the side. This is 144 minus 36. 4 minus 6 we can't do. We have to borrow. This becomes 3. This becomes 14. 14 minus 6 is 8. 3 minus 3 is 0. 1 minus nothing is 1. So this is 108. Therefore, we can see that 2 times 72 minus 36 is 108, which is 108 degrees. So we can see the measure of our two angles are 72 degrees and 108 degrees, which is C. Okay, so that is it for today's video. I hope you found it helpful. If you take a look on my channel, you'll see that I do have videos that correspond with every topic I covered in today's video. And in addition, I put those links in the description of this video next to the timestamps for each question. So if you need more help, take a look at the description of this video. If you like the content I'm creating, please consider subscribing to my channel. In addition, you're more than welcome to leave some feedback in the comment section below. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and cut you loose. Konnichiwa.